We'll go to Lee. We'll come back to Anna later. Lee Harris, very good morning to you, sir.
Good morning, Mike. How are you?
I'm all right. I mean, considering we're about to have a load of dangerous criminals unleashed onto society, onto our streets, I've been saying this morning that I think that this is going to be a massive problem for Andy Burnham, who's now, of course, on holiday. Nobody knows where he's gone. But 9,300 domestic abusers set to be released, according to the Daily Mail. Charity bosses accusing Burnham of putting vulnerable women at a new risk. And killers coming out, drunk drivers, people that have murdered people. I mean, it's just extraordinary. And of course, the government are saying, well, we haven't got any choice.
I think that's nonsense.
Yeah,
I mean, first of all, I know I've mentioned this before. I'm sure you've probably mentioned it as well this morning, that there are 10,000 foreign nationals in our prisons that we could deport. So that's the first thing we could do. That's what, I think someone told me that's about 12% of the prison population. So that's the first thing we can do. Secondly, I mean, surely there are other offences, lower level offences that we can start with. They're giving the impression that by releasing these extremely violent and dangerous offenders, they are giving the impression that that's the only type of prisoner that we have in the prison. I mean, where are the other prisoners? What about I don't know, let's let a couple of car thieves go or something. Right. I mean, the whole conversation is ridiculous to start with. I mean, you remember what we did with COVID, right? When we built all those Nightingale centres, we managed to do something pretty extraordinary. Now, I know that there is a slightly different issue with prisoners. You have to make them slightly more secure than a hospital. But I'm just trying to think outside the box. It just feels that there is no effort put into trying to find an alternative. Why haven't we heard from the government, for example? We've tried this, we can't do this. We've tried doing this, we can't do this. This is our final resort. This is the last resort. We have to let people out. I haven't heard any of that. And I just don't believe that it's the case that they have to let people out. There has to be another solution. I mean, the families that have been affected by this, I mean, my heart goes out to them, especially the family of the police officer who was murdered by those two absolutely vile thugs. I've got some. I saw the clip. I saw it at the time, but I completely forgotten about it. Of those two horrible lads going back into the back of the prison.
I think we might have that actually.
Yeah, and they're both smiling.
Yeah, should we just have just a reminder of what scumbags they are? Have a look. Yeah, that's after they've been found guilty of murder, right? And a particularly brutal murder.
Absolutely no remorse whatsoever. And they dragged that police officer down the road for a mile. We should not be letting prisoners out that are putting the general public at risk. I mean, it just seems that it doesn't matter what risk the general public faces, whether it's small boat migrants being put in your neighbourhood, people that we know nothing about, and we have had crimes from illegal migrants. If it's not something like that, we're releasing prisoners. It's just they're increasing the risk over and over again for the general public. The first job of any government is to keep the British people safe.
Yes.
And, we should be stopping the boats. We should be not releasing prisoners. It feels, Mike, like we are a failed state.
It does. And when you walk around, it feels like that as well. I mean, I know you live down in the West Country where you've got your own kind of particular issues where you are. But, walking around London, walking around, any city. I was up in Manchester last weekend. It's horrendous. It's horrific. Yeah. And it's not, people started attacking me for going, why have you come to Manchester to slag it off? I'm like, I haven't come to Manchester to slag it off. I've come to get my son and bring him back from university. It so happens that since everybody's telling me that Manchester is the Nirvana of Britain, I thought I'd have a wander around and see if it is. And of course it isn't. Absolutely not. But, London's the same. They're very strange up there. They go, well, why are you slagging off my city? It's like, people come to London to slag it off all the time. I don't go, why are you slagging off my city? I bloody well agree with you, because it is like the third world. And I mean that in the sense of the rubbish, in the way that it's jammed up all the time. You can't get anywhere very quickly. There's too many people. There's a lot of closed down shops and businesses and operations, a lot of derelict housing going on, lots of people sleeping rough on the streets, all of that, and all I'm saying is that Andy Burnham pretends that he's made this great miracle of Manchester, and he hasn't. And now he's the Prime Minister who's trying to pull the wool over our eyes about letting people out of prison when he said he wasn't going to do it, going on holiday when he's been in the job 2 weeks. I mean, it's a joke, isn't it?
Absolute joke. And you can say the same about other cities as well. I mean, like Birmingham, for example, is a bit of a tip at the moment. And I don't think going to a city and calling out what's wrong with it is because you hate that city. It's because you want that city to be better. And if you don't call it out and shine a light on it, then nothing will probably happen, especially if you've got someone like Andy Burnham as mayor, who clearly just did not do a good job in Manchester.
Yeah, right.
But the other thing I'd like to say about this whole prisoner release nonsense is I honestly believe this is going to affect Labour in the polls. And we can't let the Tories off the hook either. It didn't do them any favours. And I think this is the start of, or the end, I should say, of the Burnham bounce. We're going to start to see, sheer reality hit fast, especially as he's now on bloody holiday, Mike. I mean, I was thinking about this yesterday. I mean, I work for myself now. I've got two points on this. I work for myself. Taking a holiday is incredibly difficult. Yes. I mean, I had my first holiday I've just got back from Greece, literally a couple of days ago. My first holiday in 2 years, simply because I wasn't able to do it. It's just too busy with work. Andy Burnham's the sodding prime minister. He's going to be a little bit busier than I am. You would think anyway. I mean, God knows what the job of prime minister is nowadays. If you can just walk in after 2 weeks, take a holiday. I mean, at the very least, Mike, you'd want to make an impression, right? If I got a brand new job, a well-paid job, and I was really lucky to get it, it was a pretty damn good job. I think you can compare that to something like the prime minister. That if I had a holiday pre-booked, I'd cancel it. I know that sounds like I'm just saying it, but I would cancel it.
Yeah, but hang on. People are talking about this guy as though he's booked a sort of family of four on TUI to go to Mallorca or Estepona or somewhere, for sort of 200 quid a week. He's the Prime Minister of Britain. He was the Mayor of Manchester. He's got security. He can do a holiday anytime he wants. He can cancel it. He can start it up again. He can decide he walks into Downing Street tomorrow and goes, you know what, I fancy going to Timbuktu today, and they'll all send him there. It's not like he's like the rest of us. If he did have a holiday booked, I don't care. The point is that somebody made this point on a phone-in show yesterday. Excuse me. If you are offered a job, normally speaking, during the job interview, once they get close to thinking they're going to make you the offer, they say, "Have you got any holidays planned?" Because, if you're about to start a new job, they want to know if you're going to be buggering off to Portugal in the first 2 weeks of employment. And normally speaking, if you say, well, actually, yeah, I'm going to Spain next week for a week with my parents or with my family, they'll say, okay, well, why don't you start after the holiday?
Yeah. Yes, very true, actually. Yeah. I mean, for me, it's the mindset, right? This is such a public sector mindset. Those of us in the private sector just look at this and just think it's absolutely bonkers.
Of course.
To actually go on holiday and not care what anyone thinks. I mean, the spotlight is on the Prime Minister more than any other job in the country, and he still doesn't give a damn. He still doesn't give a damn. That is absolutely astonishing to me. I was just reading, there's
look at this from Don, right? He says, I'm not allowed to take holidays in August as we are too busy. Running the country in August must be a doddle, apparently.
Yeah. Don works in the real world, as do a lot of the rest of us.
Well, it's like people, well, I didn't want to give him his full name, Don Shagger. But if you work in the sort of hospitality business, if you work in the the holiday business in terms of, say, you run a bed and breakfast or something in Cornwall, or you run a hotel in the Lake District, you don't go on holiday in August because you're busy making money. That's when you make your money, and that's, I'm afraid, Andy Burnham should not be on holiday. The end of. That's as simple as that.
I completely agree. And there's a story on the front page of the Telegraph, whether you covered it or not already, that there's 1,000 staff at the Bank of England that work from the beach. Amazing. I mean, we get this with the civil service as well, right? Where, they wanted them to come in for just 3 days a week, and then they all went on strike. The unions got involved, and I'm like, I cannot get my head around that at all. But it is a public sector mindset. When you work, when you don't have to earn your money effectively, when you are paid an income by the state, when you are in a business where you have that mindset, it is complete. I have worked with public sector companies throughout my, working career, where I've worked for myself, by the way, doing 80 to 100-hour weeks for my first 3 to 4 years of running my own business. Not, 3-4 hours sleep a night, almost putting myself in hospital. I'm probably sounding like I'm being a right drama queen now, but that is true. That genuinely happened. And the only reason that I'm still in business now is because I did that.
Yeah.
And I put things like my work first. I've had to make some real, I'm talking, this applies to anyone, by the way, not just me, anyone who is working for themselves, anyone who runs their own business,
well,
anyone
Pooch and I, right? Pooch and I launched this business, right, in January of this year. We'd prepared for it. We did a couple of things in December, but we started, in a studio, which he built with his own bare hands, right?
A beautiful studio.
Imagine if I'd gone 2 weeks in and said, "Oh, by the way, Pooch, I've got a holiday booked. I won't be here for the next 2 weeks." He'd probably quite rightly get me around the throat. Or, we'd go, "Well, what's so special about you?" You can't do it.
And you do need a holiday at times, Mike, because getting up at
but
5 a.m.
But I do.
Hard, you need one.
And do you know, when you did send me away on holiday, do you know where I went?
No.
I went to Cyprus.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, I haven't heard
That was a lovely photograph for you by the pool, Mike. I did see that.
There is a photograph, yeah. Should we all go to Cyprus, says Denise? Yeah, Cyprus is highly recommended. Yeah, go on.
I went to Greece for 7 days, and like I say, it was the first holiday that we had.
It's great, isn't it?
Years.
And you feel like you've earned it.
Absolutely, I did. Apart from the fact that being, an ex-ginger, I have to wear factor 50 when it's cloudy, so it's way too hot for me out there. But the wife and daughter absolutely loved it, and I spent a bit more time in the air-conditioned room.
And also, you didn't get paid, right, to go on holiday because you run your own business.
Immediately, that's the thing. I immediately lose money, right?
Yeah.
So I'm not here to process a lot of the websites that I'm working on. I have to let my clients down effectively. So, and to be honest, Mike, I wasn't actually fully on holiday. I had my laptop with me.
Yeah.
I had to,
because you can't afford it, can you?
Yeah, exactly. And it's not just that. It is that, but it's also the fact that I don't want to let my clients down, right? So, they trust me. I've worked with some of them for almost 10 years. And I'm not going to let those people down. They are very important to me. So when I'm on holiday, I say to them, they're very respectful as well. They will say to me, we won't contact you unless it's an emergency. Yeah. A couple of them had to contact me because it was an emergency. Yeah. And I also did a live GB News interview while I was in Kos in Greece. I tell you what, Mike, it was actually a really lovely holiday. I'm probably making it sound worse than it was. It was nice to have a bit of a break.
No, because I know exactly how you feel. When you, as you say, when you're running your own business, it's a non-stop 24/7 existence. You don't just turn up at work and then do the work and then forget about it. You can't, because there's so many other things going on, and it's as simple as that. Mr. Fish and Chip says, "Did Mike go to Cyprus?" I didn't hear that. Yeah, not many people knew that I did, but I try to keep it quiet because I don't want people to know where I'm going. It was funny when I did go there. I turned up at the airport. And I tried really hard not to tell anybody where I was going. And all these people kept coming up to me in Gatwick going, "Where are you going?" And I'm like, "I'm trying not to tell you where I'm going." And then I got on the plane and there was a woman behind me who was a subscriber on Substack. She went, "Hi, Mike, I'm a subscriber on Substack." I'm like, "I'm going to," well, I said, if you ask me where I'm going, because I'm on the same plane as you, But no, listen, I just think it's unbelievably arrogant of Andy Burnham. I mean, there's a piece on the front of the Times today in which he says that his wife is his hardest critic. And when he said that he was going to run for Prime Minister, she said, "What? Not again. They've told you twice they don't want you. Why are you doing it again?" I wish you'd listened to her.
I was going to say, you need to listen to your wife, Andy. And that actually goes to show how much he wanted that job. I swear to God, we shouldn't have prime ministers who really want to be prime minister. Yeah. I mean, all we've had from Andy Burnham is David Brent-style promotional videos where he shows he's completely detached from the British public. Yeah. He doesn't seem to be fazed at all by the fact that we've got IRGC terrorists infiltrating the small boat crossings. Right. He, and a lot of them are already in London. MI5 have foiled 20 lethal attacks since they started to come across, and he's just popped off on holiday. Yeah. It's the mindset, and even if the job of prime minister, you can do that, right? So you leave people obviously to run certain stuff for you. It's the way it looks, There is an optics thing about this as well. I would deliberately make sure that the British public could see me working my backside off. I remember watching a documentary years ago on David Cameron, a day as being prime minister as David Cameron. I don't know if you saw that. And there was like interviews in his kitchen. They had a film on him. He gets up at 5:30, 6 o'clock in the morning. He's signing 40 documents before he's even had his cup of coffee. Right. He's on the phone. They made that job the job of prime minister out to be an incredibly busy, hard,
I'm sure it is.
Job. So why the hell is he off on holiday?
I know.
It's insanity.
I know. It's madness. Absolute madness. Well, hopefully in time we'll find out where he's gone. And
hopefully he won't come back.
And that would be nice too. Lee, we've got to run because we're running slightly late, so really appreciate your time. Thank you very much indeed. Lee Harris there reporting into us, not from Holly's Holidays, but like you said, for those of us who work for ourselves, going on holiday is a massive luxury. You don't get to do it very often, and when you do it, you're kind of still really working. The idea that Andy Burnham's gone 2 weeks into a job, a new job, and has now left to go